What's up, everybody? This week I am back in Nashville working on a private collection here, actually down in Murfreesboro, which is about a half hour outside of Nashville. This is a very special collection that I have a long time connection to. The owner of this collection, a fellow named Mike Blanton, passed away a few years ago, and he was one of the people who really promoted me and pushed me to go to Japan to become a bonsai apprentice. Actually, if it wasn't for Mike, I wouldn't have been able to go to Japan because I couldn't afford a plane ticket to get there at the time when I graduated from university, and Mike offered to help sponsor, or help partially sponsor, my ticket to Japan. So I owe a lot to Mike, and it feels really great to be able to help his wife keep that collection going and progressing forward in a positive way. So today and tomorrow I'm going to be working on this collection, helping maintain it, get everything back into check, maybe doing a little bit of wiring on some of the trees here. So first tree is this one right behind me here. Mike had a habit of naming his trees, and he named this one Doobie because it's short and fat. It's a nice little trident maple that was imported from Japan. So Mike was a big fan of all sorts of different kinds of trees. He was a huge proponent of working with a lot of the Yamadori here in the States, our native material, and he was also really big into shohin trees. So he's got a fantastic shohin collection, and a lot of those trees are deciduous plants that were brought over from Japan years ago. So it's nice to be able to kind of help these guys move along and progress into a better future. So this is one of my favorite trees that Mike has here in the collection. This is a flowering apricot. It may be small, but it's very powerful. So what I'm going to do today is partially defoliate the tree and wire the branches back into position. Now this trident maple actually has an interesting history. I believe it was originally put together by Warren Hill, who was actually my first bonsai teacher when I was a kid. So the tree's obviously quite old now. It's grasped the rock quite nicely by this point. The major issue with this tree though is that it has quite large leaves. When you're selecting deciduous material to turn into bonsai, one of the most fundamentally important things is to select something that has a naturally small sized leaf. The issue with this being so large is that while it may have a nice full canopy, what we're going to do right now is defoliate it, and you'll be able to see that underlying branch structure is quite thick and chunky. So no matter how many times you partially defoliate a tree like this, it's never going to have that nice soft branch ramification that you would see on a tree that has a naturally small leaf size to begin with. That's why it's so important to select the right kind of material from the start. But regardless, this tree's turned out to be a fantastic bonsai, and we're going to get in there and see what the branch structure looks like to help improve it a little bit. So the next project for today is this giant ginkgo. This tree is actually quite special here in the United States. You don't see too many ginkgo that are well developed like this. It has a nice nabari to it, great trunk. It's also starting to develop some of those chichi, or those hanging nipple looking things on the tree. Actually, chichi translates to nipple, so it makes perfect sense. But you can see those on the trunk here, meaning that the tree is old and getting well developed. It also has a nice leaf size too, so the ramification on the tree is quite nice. What we're going to do today is prepare this tree in hopes of potentially putting it in the U.S. National Show in a year and a half from now. So I'm going to be a little conservative in terms of what I take off the tree, but there are some problem branches in there, so I'm going to make sure that I get rid of those so that the tree continues to develop properly over the next few years. Now that we've got all of Mike's deciduous trees taken care of, we're going to move on to the conifers, and in particular we're going to be working with his black pine collection. So I'm going to go through and decandle these black pines because it's the right time of year to do that. Now, because there are a lot of black pines in this collection, what I'm going to do is a special technique that allows me to cut all of the candles at the same time. If you want to see that technique in detail, you can go to bonsaiempire.com or my website, bjornbjorholm.com, and sign up for my online intermediate course. We cover this technique in detail. But as a general rule of thumb, what I'm going to do is go through and cut off all of the candles at the same time, leaving a small stub on the thicker candles and cutting the smaller candles all the way back to the base. That'll basically allow us to balance the energy on the trees so that by the time fall rolls around, all of the needles will be about the same length, and we will have created more ramification on the plant because we get anywhere from 2 to 5 new buds in those areas where we cut the candles now. So my very first year in Japan in the fall for the Taikon 10, Mike and his wife Amy actually came to visit me, which was fantastic. It was a rough year for me getting acclimated to Japan and sort of falling into the pattern of being an apprentice. So to have somebody familiar to myself come over and visit me was really great. So this is actually a photo of Mike when he came over to visit me. This is a tree that he fell in love with over there. It's a nice juniper that was at our sales booth at the Taikon 10. But just seeing this brings back really nice memories.